Squash, known as the healthiest sport in the world, is one of the few sports in the modern day never to be included in the Olympic Games.
Can't get to it. No, that's it.
After decades of inclusion attempts, the IOC once again excluded squash from the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. The shocking news once again caused an uproar within the squash community, leaving questions: what does the sport have to do to be included in the Olympic Games? Alison Waters is one of England's most successful professional squash players, with a huge catalogue of championships and major achievements under her belt. She is a huge believer that her sport should be included in the Olympic Games and questions why it continues to be rejected.
Squash is not an Olympic sport, unfortunately, even though I think everyone thinks we deserve it. I think half the problem is that if you say to someone, oh, squash is not an Olympic sport, they don't believe you. They kind of think that squash is. 10 years or so we've really been trying to push to get in. Unfortunately we didn't get in, I think 4 years ago when it was. I think we're trying hard to get into 2022 in Paris. So I think that's the next big push, and fingers crossed for that.
Having played at the highest level, the only thing missing from Alison's career is playing at the Olympic Games, the pinnacle of any sports person's career.
A few years ago there was lots of politics going on within the IOC, and we were competing against other sports such as golf, rugby sevens. So a lot of the time it's political reasons that are the reason why squash hasn't got in.
Who is in favour of this proposal, please raise your hands.
On the 8th of September 2013, the IOC made the decision to include 5 new sports into the Olympic Games for Tokyo 2020. The 5 sports included were baseball and softball, surfing, karate, skateboarding and sport climbing. Squash was one of the few sports that missed out on the Olympic Games once again.
Unanimously approved. Congratulations, Tokyo 2020.
We firmly believe these 5 sports will deliver significant benefits, including enormous worldwide youth appeal, increased excitement level in Japan, and great added value overall to the Tokyo 2020 Games. We believe they will also inspire hundreds of thousands of new young athletes to achieve their dreams of competing at the highest level around the world.
I think they said that also we weren't very, viewing-wise we weren't great, and there was maybe aspects that we needed to improve on that. But now I think that squash is, it's played all around the world in loads of countries, and it's very easy to watch. I think we've definitely improved in terms of those.
Not only does missing out on the Olympic Games affect the players, but everyone in the squash community feels the same way.
Well, it's obviously disappointing that squash is not in the Olympic Games. I think we've tried now for probably the last 12 years, last 3 Olympics to try and get in, but we've not been successful. But I think we've got close on a couple of occasions, and just been pipped at 2 other sports. Obviously it's difficult getting in the Olympic Games, but I think squash will keep trying. Every time it comes around, we'll give it a go. I think we've fallen short because of TV coverage, but I'm not sure that can be used anymore. I think that what Squash TV have done has just been brilliant. I think the graphics now are better than they've ever been. Different cameras in all different areas of the court are fantastic. Anybody who subscribes to Squash TV will know how fantastic squash is to watch now. It's brilliant to watch live. It's great to watch on Squash TV. So hopefully we tick that box.
11-10, right side. Right side. 11-10, playing ball.
So when I grew up, I always played loads of different sports at school. I used to play football and hockey and netball and yeah, every sport going really. So yeah, I was always a very sporty person, but squash was always my number one sport and one that after school I'd always used to go to the club and play and yeah, went from there really. And I started playing when I was 5, my parents played. I just love the intensity of the game. It requires so much skill and stamina and all sorts of fitness and obviously the mental side as well, so I just think it's always a great challenge when I'm on court and yeah, I've always just loved playing and yeah, it's just the sort of adrenaline that sort of takes over when you start playing really. So when I was growing up, my biggest inspiration was Sarah Fitzgerald. She was an Australian squash player. She was number 1 in the world champion, and I always used to love the way she played. She would volley the ball a lot. She'd play sort of in a very dominant way, and I always used to want to base myself on her. So she was definitely an inspiration to me. Also another one was Tanya Bailey, who was an English player. She got to world, I think, top number 3. When I used to have coaching, she would be a partner that I would hit with, so it was always great for me, experience when I was younger, to be able to hit with someone like that, and yeah, someone that I always looked up to when I was growing up. I think from the age of sort of 14, 15, I always thought that one day I could be a professional squash player. I always used to play all the junior tournaments every weekend, and I was always sort of 1 or 2 in the age groups as I was growing up. So yeah, I never really had any other idea what I wanted to do job-wise, and I could always just see myself playing squash really, and yeah, as I say, lucky enough to be able to turn professional after my A-levels.
Wow, great post, opens the court up. There's the drop and the finish, and England's done it!
11-4.
What a match.
England.
We weren't showing incredible class this week, but not enough juice in the tank.
8-11.
What a moment. Look at the England team ready to rush her. Wow, so happy. What a joyous moment.
I suppose playing squash, you get to see so many great sights and experience different cultures and travel around the world. That's always been a big motivation. Obviously, winning titles, playing in sort of major events, and we're so lucky that squash can be put, the court can be put anywhere really, so we have some great venues that we can play at, so that's so motivating in itself to be able to go to these places and just be lucky enough to do it really. Achievement wise, representing England 140 times is one of my biggest achievements. I always love playing for my country, and we have a team event every year and then world teams every 2 years. So I always love those events. Being lucky enough to go to Commonwealth Games 4 times, won a silver and bronze medal there. So it's just those experiences which you kind of remember for the rest of your life really, and it's such a good team atmosphere, those events, that yeah, they're the ones I really enjoy. So maybe Olympics, that would be obviously the pinnacle of our career. At the minute we have the Commonwealth Games, which is our pinnacle, but yeah, to win a gold medal at the Olympics would be, I think most people would say that would be the best thing that they could do really. Yeah, I think the signs are good for Paris. Obviously we've been in this position before where we thought the same thing and we haven't got in, so yeah, I don't think anyone's taken anything for granted, but they had the Youth Olympics a couple of weeks ago in Buenos Aires, so I think that got good reports from squash, from the IOC, and it got, I think, 25,000 kids playing over the space of the week, so that was really good. And if we can do more things like that where squash is getting out there to the general public and people are seeing squash, then that can only help us really. But people hadn't seen squash before and they were like, oh wow, this looks great. So I think some of the IOC members went on court as well and they seemed to enjoy it. So yeah, the more we can, as you say, showcase the sport like that, and obviously to be invited to the Youth Olympics was great, and you know, hopefully we can build on that in the next few years.
The next generation of squash players will hope to see their sport be included in future Olympic Games and will do anything to turn their hope into reality.
So a few weeks ago I went to Buenos Aires as part of the Youth Olympic Games, and we went to showcase squash. Squash is not in the Olympics, so we went to promote it and show everybody like what a great sport it is and how it deserves to be in the Olympics. Easy to watch. It's competitive. Like, it's really physical. Like, it's a great sport. It's competitive. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be an Olympic sport. It'd be great to play in Paris, and it'd be a good age for me as well. So I think if I keep playing, there's no reason why I can't.
Because we've had so long without being in, that you always have to remain hopeful, and you know, everyone in squash works hard to, you know, put a good campaign forward and stuff, but at the same time it is quite hard to keep positive as well, because you do feel that squash has been unlucky, and you know, they've, due to some aspects, like obviously I mentioned the political reasons, we have missed out. So I think, I mean, everyone has to keep positive, but yeah, it becomes harder as the years go by when you're not getting in, really. So disappointing every time you think you're close to getting in, and then they put different sports in, such as skateboarding and rock climbing and stuff, which obviously, yeah, they'll be delighted they're in, but yeah, squash has again missed out, so it's quite hard to take, and obviously you do start to realise why are we not getting into the Olympics, really.
The Back the Big campaign for Tokyo 2020 came not only from the squash community, but saw other major sports people from around the world support squash in the Olympics.
So I think it's just for everyone to keep working hard, keep trying to promote the game as much as possible, do the showcase event like we had in Buenos Aires, which was fantastic. That was the first time that's happened. So I think the more things that we can do like that, get the sport into the public eye, which we do, but yeah, in terms of, you know, players can help a lot by, I don't know, tweeting about it, social media, which is obviously a massive factor in life now, that life has sort of become on social media. So yeah, it's going to take more work like that, I think. When Andy Murray and Federer backed the bid, yeah, it was really good for squash. I've heard that Roger Federer plays a bit of squash, so it's always good when you have someone with that high profile to talk about the game, and you know, it generates more interest, and that's what squash needs really to become an Olympic sport. We need the media and people to get behind the game and, you know, help promote it. And you know, it's difficult because obviously, you know, England squash is not one of the national sports, whereas in other countries like Egypt or Malaysia, squash is the number one sport. Whereas here we're competing against a lot of other sports, football, rugby. So we need the media to help us out and get behind squash, really.
Good, Alice, keep using that height to absorb when you need to.
Squash has been some fantastic venues. Lucky enough to play in the Pyramids. Played there a couple of years ago. That tournament hadn't been on for about 15 years, but there's a really iconic picture of the squash court surrounded by the three pyramids. So that was amazing to play at. Kind of surreal, really, when you're there for practice in the morning and then you look around and there's three pyramids around you. So that was quite cool. And then we also have a great tournament in Grand Central Station in New York. They put the court up there. And that's great for squash, because it's those sorts of tournaments that generate a lot of media interest, and you know, the public can stand and watch, and the amount of people that go through the station every day is what squash needs to really, and they're the sort of tournament that really gets the word out, really. If squash got into the Olympics 2024, it's so easy to put a squash court up. That's the thing, you only need one court, so it's very accessible and it doesn't cost that much money, so it's not like you need a whole stadium really. It's just one court, and yeah, to have that in front of, say, the Eiffel Tower would be, yeah, it would look fantastic really.
With the 2024 Olympic Games confirmed to be in Paris, will the sport of squash make history and be included for the very first time in the greatest sporting event on earth? Only time will tell.
I think squash is just a brilliant game. I think it's got all the attributes for an Olympic sport. It's without doubt the pinnacle of a squash player's career. For me, I just think the players deserve it. They put so much time and effort into their training. Playing squash is not an easy sport. Anybody who earns a living out of squash as a professional is doing really well, because there's only a few that really make it to the top and can earn a good living out of this game. So something like the Olympics would just give those players such a lift, and they deserve it. They absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, if squash got into the 2020 Olympics, then I might be okay in terms of playing. But I think 2024 would be probably a stretch too far for me. Maybe I could go into a coaching capacity or something like that. But yeah, as for playing, I don't think I'd make it. But I'd be really happy that squash got in, and for the next generation, it would be fantastic for them.